Hello, and welcome to the almost end of the first week of Shadowlands video. How are you doing? We will be doing the end of the week video tomorrow, but for now we have some cool things to talk about, hoping you will get an easier time playing, and the only relevant bit of news of today. A bunch of useless garbage and one important thing, which is going to be Soul Ash in your mission table. Remember, I made a couple of videos about this before, talking about the maximum Soul Ash you could get every week. I mentioned how important it could have been to get Soul Ash from your missions, because if you can get 4 weeks worth of 100 Soul Ash per week from the mission table, you will be able to get 400 extra Soul Ash. 400 extra Soul Ash is the difference from being able to craft the Tier 4 Legendary on the second week of Mythic Raiding. I am aware this is going to be relevant to roughly 5% of the people watching, but it is still an important notion to give out. So, this is the thing. It has been confirmed. I mentioned before that in the beta, one of the original things about the mission table Soul Ash mission was that it was coming out with the rank 3 of the mission table. Now, rank 3 would have taken you weeks to reach, meaning this mission wasn't really a thing. It wasn't expected to come this early. But apparently players have started getting this mission now. Now, don't get me wrong, it is still a very hard mission this early in the expansion. Elite mission. This early on, most people have their characters at level 8, 9, 10, 11, so it's gonna be a bit hard to complete properly. The only thing people seem to have mentioned when getting this mission is that they completed their chapters of the story, the available chapters on the first week. So you might want to try them out and finish your chapters if you haven't done it yet, if you haven't seen your mission yet. Again, Blizzard hasn't really confirmed anything, so we don't know if this is guaranteed to everyone, if it is guaranteed to be Soul Ash only, or if it is going to be a similar quest with a different reward which isn't Soul Ash. Remember in BFA, when you could get the weekly mission that gave you Titan Residium or not, or the weekly mission that gave you Azerite Power or not. So we're not completely sure, but right now this is how things are. Finish your chapter of your story and then see if you can get your mission for Soul Ash. Of course, you have to keep sending out your buddies for missions to get them leveled up to be able to attempt this. Also, don't forget, if you don't know this yet, you have to get to Torghast to get your second adventurer. They are called now. Your followers from your mission table, your adventurers. You have to go into Torghast and you will get one of those trapped NPCs you have to free. And this is the list of the NPCs for each covenant. So if you find this guy in Torghast and you just ignore it because you don't care, please remember you need this, so you will get this in your roster for your missions. Okay, so the daily news part is over. We can go back to our scheduled add-on list. Now, before we go into these useful WEAKAURAS, we have to mention a different add-on, which is HandyNotes. Please, guys, get your HandyNotes. I've seen far too many people completely unaware of what's going on in the MO. So with HandyNotes, you can see what people are talking about. You can see the names that people are telling you in chat that you have no idea about. With HandyNotes, you can just see them. So that's the first help you can get in Mo to navigate around the Mo. In a few days, you should normally remember all the names you have seen already and sort of remember where they are. So it will become less useful over time. But for the time being, HandyNotes can help you a lot. And of course, this should have been a thing already though. If you are after treasure hunting, battle pets and whatnot, then you should have gotten HandyNotes a long time ago, because that is basically what's been made for. It still has its uses for rare hunting in the MO, but even outside of the MO you can use it for any sort of collectionism that you want to do in the game. Old content, old expansions included. Now the other add-on is for people who don't put as much importance into their UI and it's not heavily modded, it's not heavily modified. I mentioned this add-on already, so I will do it again. It's MoveAnything. For people who don't have their UI completely taken over by an add-on and they want more freedom with their stuff, you can just use MoveAnything and just move all the things you wanted to move before whenever you want. It can be the minimap, it can be the map, it can be the RP dialog box that pops at the bottom of your screen that maybe is blocking your user frames or your WEAKAURAS and you just don't want it there. You can move that. You can move the extra action bar. You can move anything you want. Very apt name for an add-on, MoveAnything. Now, moving on to the WEAKAURAS, the useful stuff, and the less known, probably some of the less known ones. The first useful WEAKAURA is ultimate mouse cursor, it is going to do exactly what it says it does. It is going to show you 3 rings around your mouse cursor. One is going to be static, and it is simply going to follow your cursor around to make it easier to see. And then you have 2 rings. One is going to be smaller and is going to be your global cooldown, and one is going to be the outer ring, which is going to be your cast bar, your cast circle. Now the default is just a blank canvas, it's just white. So I recommend changing the colors to something that makes more sense to you. I made the global cooldown red and the cast bar green. You can do whatever. You can even make them glow. You can change them to be squares, to be diamonds if you want, whatever. I think it's pretty helpful as a weak aura, particularly to people who get sidetracked and lose track of their mouse, or for people who can pay attention to their mouse and they get to see their cast bar and their GCD in there. Now we have a couple of things for Torghast. Not much there in Torghast, but one thing is going to be a quality of life change, which is going to be your overlay panel of Torghast. Now, if you're annoyed at Blizzard because they have a very large, wide, intrusive, and also annoying to use overlay to show you what's going on in Torghast, you have to even click an extra button to show you your powers. If that seems annoying to you, you can use Torghast Panel. Torghast Panel is essentially going to compact everything together, squish them together, and you can then resize it to be even smaller if you want to. You will be able to see your floors, your layers, your phantasma, and all of your powers neatly clamped together for you to see at all times. And of course, since it's a weak aura, you can make it show only in combat, only out of combat. So obviously it has way more customization than just the normal Blizzard UI. Now, talking about Torghast, we have to go for a debate. Big brain or lazy? Do you want to get your results by thinking and by logic, or do you just want to get a bot to do it for you to save you time? This weak aura is going to let you take the lazy path. Now, you don't have to admit it because there is no shame in that, but because we know that for most of you, the most used way to solve the rune locked vault minigame is to just frantically click on the runes until something happens. You're not actually trying to solve it, you're just clicking. Now, this weak aura is going to allow you to get an easier and more certified result. It's going to pop up when you get close to one of these chests, and then you can just look at the original colors of the chest, and then click on the first rune and look at which of the runes have changed color. You will then tick the boxes of the runes that change color for the first rune, and then you will move on to the second rune, and you will get your answer. That's going to be an easy way for you to solve that minigame. Now, continuing on the lazy path, we also have the Mists of Tirnasite minigame. Now, I've seen some videos about good-willed, good Samaritans, helpful, honest people trying to help you understand how it works. But we all know you're just lazy. Why would you have to think when you get a robot, an AI, a script to do it for you? So you can go and take the guessing game weak aura. All you have to do with this is to download the textures of those icons, because of course weak aura doesn't have them by default. It's gonna take 2 seconds. It's gonna be in the description link, and that image folder should go into your add-ons folder just like if it was an add-on. Once you have your textures, you can have this weak aura fully working. It's pretty self-explanatory. You get into one of the minigame segments, you will just look at the 4 icons that will pop up, and you will select them on the add-on, and you will get your result, and you will move on. Pretty simple. No thinking required, beyond just recognizing which of the icons are showing up, which is not too difficult. Now onto some more in-depth weak aura. We have ZenTracker. Now, don't be discouraged by big words, okay? It's not difficult at all, and you can let it work by default, and you don't have to change anything if you don't want to. It's not as complicated as it sounds. ZenTracker is a weak aura that is going to track spell cooldowns for you, your group members, your raid members, DPS cooldowns, utility cooldowns, defensives, anything you want. Essentially anything in the game can be tracked by ZenTracker. So how is this used? ZenTracker requires a backend and a front end. So it requires the basic add-on to work in the background, and then the front end you actually use to see in the game. The backend is also going to need a library to work, which is also going to be linked together with the backend ZenTracker. And then you can look at front ends. The more popular ones are the ones from Nogi, which are your party cooldown trackers and your interrupt tracker, which works exactly as it's supposed to. The interrupt tracker is going to show you all the interrupts of your party, and the CD tracker is going to show you all the CDs of your party. And most importantly, which is exactly what you're seeing right now, the party tracker is going to lock all these icons next to the player's party frame. It doesn't even matter if you have different add-ons. In my case, for example, I have grid, and it is still locking up the correct icons to the correct characters, the correct players. This is very, very helpful, particularly for tanks and healers. Why? Well, obviously, if you're a healer, you can see which defensive cooldowns the tank have available. If you're a tank, you can see which defensive cooldowns the healer has available, or, healing cooldowns. So it is very, very good. Now, a little bit more in depth. Again, don't be scared, it's not that difficult. If you want to take the long way, when you take the party tracker, you can open WEAKAURA, go into the party tracker and select custom options. This is what you will see. You will be able to select what do you want to show up in those party trackers. If you just want CC, personal CDs and defensive CDs and you don't care about DPS cooldowns, you can just remove DPS cooldowns if you don't want them. And you can also, of course, select the rows. For example, you can put the healing externals and the personal CDs in the first row, so you will always see defensive stuff in the first row, and then you can put offensive CDs in the second row. Another thing, if you want to take even more time, you can go down and just select them by spell. You can choose to handpick whatever type of cooldown you want to see. Maybe you don't think looking at the cooldown of a rogue's Blade Flurry is very relevant. Maybe you don't think looking at Pillar of Frost for a Frost DK is very relevant. Maybe you just care about Avenging Wrath, about Army of the Dead, about Vendetta, and about Combustion. You don't care about the Ravager for a Warrior, or Fists of Fury for a Monk, right? So you can choose them on your own with this WEAKAURA. The same goes for your interrupt tracker. You can just go and look at which ones do you want to have available. So this was the compilation of useful things you can use to tweak your UI and to tweak your character in game. Now I know some people have some sort of, fear of something like WEAKAURA. They think it's too complicated or too in-depth for them to use, but really you should give it a try. Most of the time you can find things pre-made, pre-packaged by other players, by players who actually know how to set up this sort of stuff, so you don't have to put too much effort into it if you don't really want to, but you should definitely give it a try if you've never tried WEAKAURA. As for the other add-ons, things like MoveAnything and things like HandyNotes should really be a no-brainer for everyone. They're not really that intrusive to the way you play, to what you see on your screen, and they just make your life better in-game. So they are recommended for everyone. Now with this, we are done. Tomorrow, we are gonna get the end of the week recap. What have you done? What have you accomplished? What didn't you accomplish? And plenty of other things regarding the first week, looking into the next one. Although, to be fair, not much is changing next week, but a few things are, and we will go over them as well. So, see you guys soon, and in the meantime, tweak your WEAKAURAS.